Voluptuous TV. This is Miss Chas coming to you on Voluptuous TV, and I'm in the studio with Mr. Shawn Elfin, who is the host of Lost and Found on iWatchRadio.com.
Definitely.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm great. So tell me about your show.
It is it's a personal development show. Actually, I talk a lot about things that happen in America, what's going on. You know, I try to put some type of spin on it to where I don't lose the urban people, and you know, so I gotta kind of keep them. So, but then I try to talk about things that actually do matter, and it's more of a personal development show to where I kind of chop down attitudes and a mind frame to have to go about in the everyday life. So it's going. It's an everyday struggle for us. You know, what I want to put in the show, what I want to take out of the show, but it's definitely going.
And so, how do you come up with the concept of your shows? Because when I was doing research on this show, it states that you all's premise is about the love of oneself and others and society's misconception of that. And I know just from watching some of your shows that you have very serious topics of discussion. And of course, we can all see that you're extremely young and vibrant.
Okay.
So I'm sure you're very opinionated, you know, and then also your exposure to some may be limited. However, I do know you come from a military background.
Yes.
And with that being said, how do you establish your concepts for the show?
I would say it's I thought it would be a lot harder when I started off, but actually it's been super easy because so many crazy things happen in America from week to week. So it's actually pretty easy. But my whole kind of concept that I try to stick with is mostly taking things that happen in America and showing you the behind the scenes. You know, how we talk about what's going on at Occupy Wall Street, and we talk about the presidential debate and stuff, but then we kind of take it and flip it around and show you the behind the scenes of not what's really going on, but things that they don't too much not want you to know, but things that are not talked about on a, you know, on an everyday basis, on everyday level. So when I say society's misconception of the notion, we might talk about, you know, rap music. You might say, well, hey, rap music does this, that, and stuff for the country. But then we'll talk about, you know, what else can we improve on that it doesn't do, or something like that, to for us, you know, putting a spin on anything to go from race relations. You know, in America, we can't really talk about race, religion, politics. But then on this show, we kind of do talk about those things. And then we talk about why we in America don't want to talk about, you know, those things, or what's stopping us from talking about those things. Or a lot of stereotypical things to where when you go home, if I was a fly on somebody's wall, you know, things that I would hear, but out in the public, things that people are not going to say. I feel like we're kind of groomed in America as that to be, hey, you're this type of person or you're this type of person, but really you don't know that person. So it's, you know, that's pretty much the concept of the show and how I'm trying to take it. But, you know, there's roadblocks along the way to say, hey, you know, this group of people feel this type of way, or that group of people feel this type of way, or, you know, our president is black, you know what I'm saying? So that gets, you know, we're talking about today how everybody, I've never heard anybody say until, you know, black people told Obama, that's my president. So we investigate that and say, hey, well, you know, what happened to Clinton? People like Clinton, how come he wasn't your president? You know, and it's not really, I don't push views upon folks, but it's pretty much open dialogue.
And with you having a military background, do you think that puts you in a position to be able to say more than the average person that picks a topic to speak on?
I wouldn't say maybe say more. I feel like everybody has a voice, you know, but I have been a lot more places. I've seen a little bit, done a lot of bits, so on a military aspect, I feel like that gives me some type of clout to speak about maybe the war, because I've been over there in the war. So, you know, I feel like I kind of earned them stripes, and a lot of people here like to talk about things that they know nothing about. You know, they want to say, well, this, that, and the other, or this, that, and the other, but sometimes you can't talk about the war or politics if you haven't lived it, or you don't know nobody that's kind of living it, you know. So I get to put my spin on it, and people seem to respect that. You know, if I've been over there and I say certain things, they say, man, I didn't think about it like that, or man, I didn't think, you know, we talk about Iraq and people say this, that, and the other, but you know, I tell them, like, I've had more Iraqis tell me, thank you for leaving your family to help me protect my family. And that threw me for a loop, because when we go over there, it's more of a, they're the enemy. You know, we go over there with the mind frame of, hey, these are the enemy, this, that, and the other, but, you know, people are people. Everybody's not the enemy. And when I first went over there, I think I started looking at how the world is and not how the world should be. You know, and I think that was the biggest transformation that the military did for me, for us understanding how the military only wants robots. You know, they only want zombies. If you're not a zombie or a robot, they don't want you in the military.
So do you think that the media plays a huge role in that misconception, as you stated?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, it plays the most pivotal and crucial role, because all we can do as a people is, you know, is pretty much what we see and what we hear. You know, that's it. Even though what you see and what you hear might not be the truth, but, you know, that's it. And I tell a lot of people in the inner cities, if all they see is, you know, gang banging and drugs, and then they turn on the TV to BT and all you see is gang banging and drugs and this, that, and the other, then you can't take yourself out of that type of environment. And people say, well, how come they just don't do this and do that and the other? But when you grow up and that's all you're around, then that's all you're conditioned to, you know, that's your comfort zone. You know, and right now in the city, that pretty much is, you know, a lot of people's comfort zone. You know, they'd rather stick around the hood and maybe live off a little welfare and do this and, you know, chill and do that. But at the end of the day, that's you know, that's not progression at all. So it's, you know, it gets super deep. It really does. But, you know, only way we can kind of conquer that is pretty much dialogue, talking about it, you know.
And I think you give an excellent premise for that. And what do you say to people who say, well, he's a young man, middle to late 20s to be exact. And although you have had the military exposure and you've been across the country, you know, in different countries and seen a whole lot, definitely. What do you say to people who say, well, he's too young to really have that type of an opinion, or what does he know, really?
I would, I look at it as 27 to me is old. And I mean, that's just because it's my life and I've been living for that long. Right. And I feel like I'm getting old and old, like, you know. And I know other people, my mom tell me all the time, like, man, that's not old. You still got so much life ahead of you. But it doesn't feel like that right now. It feels like, man, I've been through different places, you know.
And the reason why I ask that is because you talk about very deep topics that most 27-year-olds would not even care to speak on.
Okay, I had a conversation with a friend the other night. He always told me, he was like, even when we were in Iraq, you talked about making change and being maybe an activist or something like that. So it's kind of always been in my blood for a little while, but it excites me. I'm a real history type person, like in school, math and English didn't excite me at all. But you get me in a history class, I like to learn about things that actually happened, you know, like, man, they went to war and this, that, and other. I'm a big, you know, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, American Revolution. You know, it goes back to Egyptians and Africa and, you know, where we come from and where we're going, you know. And it's like you got to really revisit where we come from as a people to understand, you know, where we're going or where they're kind of pushing us to go, you know, at the same time. So I love history. I love it to death. That's, you know, that's kind of my thing. I can sit up and read and research all night because I just love it. I don't know what it is, but it's in me some type of way.